Deion Sanders in Colorado continue to dominate the transfer portal, but I think some people are underestimating just how much they have improved this offseason.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Bohr. But today's episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And we all know we love free things. But we also love talking about Coach Prime and what he's doing in the transfer portal. And he is doing it. Colorado is making additions left and right. We all know they lost Rashad Amos to the transfer portal, or I guess he never really came to Colorado. They lost Rashad Amos, the running back from Miami of Ohio, to Ole Miss. He's now one of their 75 running backs on the roster. So they went into SEC country and landed Isaiah Augustave, I believe is how you say it. I could be butchering the heck out of his name, but he's from Arkansas and had a productive freshman year for the Razorbacks, who had a pretty solid running back room. He had 35 carries for 202 yards and a touchdown, 6'2", 208 pounds from Florida, 5.8 yards per carry. He's got that Florida. He's a Florida product, which Coach Prime loves. And he is also a former 4-star recruit, was ranked as the 226th player in the country, 13th running back, 45th player in the state of Florida, which, geez, when you say that 4-star player, he's a top 15 player in his position, but he's not even top 30 in the state of Florida. You just know the talent is deep there, but he's really good over there. 6'2", gives Colorado some size in the running back room. And he had tons of offers. He had nearly 30 offers, around 25-ish. Florida State went after him. Kentucky, Maryland, Missouri, Oklahoma State, Tennessee, Utah, all the programs came after him, and he ended up at Arkansas, and now he's transferring to Boulder. So what does this mean for Colorado? Well, for one, it gives them more depth. And I think that when Rashad Amos left the room, I told you guys right away, I'm like, now I'm worried about this running back room again, just because from a sheer numbers and body perspective, like in terms of how many guys they have in the room, they did not have enough. They have Dallin Hayden, the Ohio State transfer. They have Michael Welch, the true freshman, and Charlie Offerdahl, who was a former walk-on turned scholarship running back. Other than that, that was it. They had some Isaiah Harge, play some running back during the spring game, but I don't know what his plans are, like if he's going to remain in the running back room. He did pretty well. He had probably the biggest play of the spring game, but it was like, who's going to step up? Who's going to be the starter? Who's going to be that rotational guy that they could put in for power, that they could put in just when they need to give someone a rest? And I think this is that guy. Like, I really do think that everything about the latest edition, Isaiah, I don't want to say his last name wrong, but I think it's Augustave. Or Augustive. I'm going to say Gustave. And if I'm wrong, I apologize to him. But Isaiah A, as we'll call him until I learn how to properly pronounce his name, he is going to be someone that Colorado gets for multiple years. He offers a lot of size, a lot of power, and this running back room has more depth, which is what they needed. In terms of the portal as a whole, I think Isaiah is another reason that people underestimate just how good this transfer portal class is this spring. So if you guys aren't familiar with Rivals, that's one of the recruiting sites. They released their grades for all the Big 12 programs, and they gave Colorado a B. Now, if you were like me in high school, a B is fine. You know, a B, it gets the job done. It's like you tried, you did well. You didn't do too good, but you didn't do bad at all. And you're above average. So I'm like, a B is solid. But if you're like me in college, when I actually realized that my actions will sort of define or impact what happens to me, I was shooting for A's. And I'm like, okay, why doesn't Colorado get an A here? So I look at what their breakdown was, and it says, on one hand, Colorado continued to beef up the offense line with solid additions. Meanwhile, Hill Green is a high IQ defender, talking about the linebacker from Charlotte. Still, it's hard to ignore all the players heading in the opposite direction. And so I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. So this was spring portal only. So the additions as of when this was written were Nakai Hill Green, Deion Hayes from Pitt, Rashad Amos, who's no longer a part of the class, just flip him with Isaiah, Dallin Hayden, Ethan Boyd, the Michigan State offensive tackle, Zach Owens, the interior offensive lineman from Clemson, Peyton Kirkland from Texas, Colton Hood from Auburn, and Ryan Buell from Charlotte. Subtractions. Cormani McLean, Omarion Cooper, Dylan Edwards, Alton McCaskill, Jack Bailey, Savion Washington. So I look at this and it's like, if you want to say that Dylan Edwards and Alton McCaskill were big losses, I'd agree with you. But I think the manner in which Colorado replaced the guys they lost, I think it has to be at worst an A-. You look at what they addressed. They had linebacker issues. I still think the linebacker room is relatively weak, but Nakai Hill-Green makes it a whole lot stronger than what it was. Deion Hayes was someone who was a contributor at Pitt. He's a starter last year, played really well for the Pitt Panthers, left his hometown program because he wanted to be on a team that could compete, and he felt that team was Colorado. Dallin Hayden is a running back that just got buried at Ohio State, but he was really good when he got to play. So Colorado has a top-tier running back. They added another one, Isaiah. So they have 2 starting caliber running backs plus Michael Welch, who will probably end up starting at some point. And they beefed up majorly in the offensive line after a year where people were like, this offensive line sucks. This offensive line's too small. They're not good enough. Well, basically all the guys that they brought in are like 6'5" and 330 or more pounds. Like, they addressed every need they had. And when I look at the guys that they lost, and I'll talk about them again, Cormani McLean, 5-star recruit. I think in terms of potential, they lost a lot. In terms of what they were getting from him, they lost virtually nothing. He wasn't showing up to practices. He wasn't showing up to meetings. Now, I'm not going to go back on what I said earlier this offseason where I thought he could be a breakout player, but that was if he wanted to be. And he clearly in Boulder did not want to be a breakout player because that required putting in more work and kind of figuring things out as a young man, and he just wasn't there yet. It doesn't mean he's not going to be there at Florida, but he's just not there yet, or wasn't there yet. And then Omarion Cooper, I think he kind of just saw the writing on the wall. He was a starter last year, and he wasn't going to be a starter this year. So while he was productive for Colorado last year, gave him some big plays, wasn't going to start again this year over Preston Hodge or DJ McKinney. So he kind of just read the writing on the wall. Dylan Edwards is a tremendous loss. I think he's probably the biggest loss of the Coach Prime era, just because he was so good. He fit in the offense. He could do a little bit of everything. And they ended up losing him to an in-conference rival in Kansas State. Well, I don't know if they're rivals yet, but an in-conference foe, Kansas State, which hurts even more because now you have to play against him after knowing just how good he could be. Alton McCaskill, tough loss in the sense that we never saw him. We haven't seen Alton McCaskill play a meaningful snap of college football since 2021. For reference, in 2021, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I was in grad school. I think I was in grad school. So he hasn't played since I've been out of college, or since I was in college. So there's that. He had a lot of potential. He was really good at Houston, but multiple injuries, kind of banged up last year. Is he going to be the same back? We didn't know. I thought he could have been really good. Guess we'll find out how he does at, I think he ended up at Arizona State is what it was. Yeah, him and Shimon Mater ended up at Arizona State. Jack Bailey, offensive lineman, honestly, and Savion Washington. This is nothing against those guys as individuals. That offensive line, though, last year was so bad that I don't think anyone that they lost really hurts. Like, if we're just being honest, I don't think there was a single person really would have loved to keep him. Like maybe Van Wells, but they got Hank, who they brought in last year as a freshman. He stuck around. He's tough. He wants to compete, and he's got that dog in him. And so I just think the additions far outweigh the subtractions, and they addressed all the problems they had, which for Colorado last year, as you guys know, if you've been watching my show or just watching and keeping up with college football, you know that Colorado had some issues last season. So I think that they kind of got the better end of the stick in the spring transfer portal window. You guys comment below. What would you grade Colorado this spring window? So the guys that they added during the spring, not as a whole, this spring window. When we come back, we're going to be talking about coaching rumors again. I roll, but I'm going to tell you why I don't think there's any validity to this. This episode of Locked On Bust is brought to you by our sponsors over at Yahoo Finance. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you could consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. Let's get straight to the point. You want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising costs of inflation, to pay off your debt or your mortgage, pretty much anything standing in the way of you and financial freedom, right? With Yahoo Finance, you could get access to the news, data, and tools that you need in order to help reach that financial freedom. when it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all. You've saved, you've researched, you've invested, all that. Now you need to take those investments and take them to the next level by using what every financial great uses, Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. The number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. By the way, Locked On is doing this really cool thing where if you love sports, you need to tune in. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed to you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streamed 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Let's talk about new jobs for Coach Prime. And I don't know why this always comes up, but I like to talk about it when I see it. And I think a lot of people are sort of kind of, I don't want to say willing it to happen, but they're kind of discussing it like it's a guaranteed thing. Listen, if Coach Prime leaves for another job, he will definitely be one. It'd be a great season for Colorado. Like realistically, unless they have a horrible season and he leaves for a job that is a step down from Colorado, that means Colorado has a good enough season to where his resume being a 2-year coach at a Power 5 program was enough to have another program offer him a job, which Colorado, I think they would do more than anything to keep him in Boulder. Like if he has say they win 9 games, make a bowl game, they're kind of in the mix for the Big 12. I promise you'll probably get a raise. Like I think Rick George would be like, you know what? Why wouldn't we give this guy a raise? He brings in revenue to our community. He's kind of made our program the most relevant it's ever been, including when they won a national championship, which I mean, it's hard to compare the 90s to now with all the social media and stuff, but Coach Prime navigates social media for the most part quite well. He has all these Amazon documentaries. He has well-off media. There is so much to be excited about Coach Prime in Colorado. So I could see why Rick George would want to give him a contract extension if things go well. But there was an article talking about, and this is the title, potential Deion Sanders landing spots when Shedeur and Shiloh leave Colorado. And it's like, okay, we know they're leaving. And he said something interesting the other day. I don't remember the exact quote, but in essence, this is me paraphrasing because this is what I remember of it. He basically said he doesn't follow his kids. He like paves the way for them or they follow him. So if his kids go off to the NFL and say they go to the Falcons and, well, I guess Shedeur's not going to the Falcons. Let's say they go to Raiders and the Vikings, we'll just say. Coach Prime is not going to just quit because he's not going to get those jobs. Like there's not many NFL jobs that are willing to take a risk and hire someone who has no NFL coaching experience, especially someone who isn't the most dominant college coach of all time. Like Nick Saban failed at the NFL level, Urban Meyer failed at the NFL level, Matt Rule failed at the NFL level, and they all had better resumes than Coach Prime. Like it's very difficult. Chip Kelly failed at the NFL level. It's very difficult to go from the college to NFL ranks. And Coach Prime has already said countless times, he would not like the sort of entitlement and the sort of attitude that comes with those guys getting paid. I think he also likes to mentor young men. I think he likes to sort of mold the next generation and kind of help youngsters see their own greatness and see their own potential, which I always admire. But this article is discussing all the jobs that they think he could leave. And there's a couple. I'll just run through them. I'm going to pick them apart. Florida. I don't think Coach Prime really cares about his college rivalry or his alma mater, Florida State, in the sense of like, does he want to go there and go against his school, his alma mater, Florida State? I don't know. I don't think he cares. Like if they came, I think if Florida had came knocking when he was at Jackson State, it would have been a different story. But does he want to take over that job? I think it'd be recruiting wise, it'd be extremely easy for him because he wants to recruit the state of Florida anyway. But does he want to be in the SEC where I won't say he won't be the biggest brand, but I think in the Big 12, Coach Prime has a chance to really kind of be the face of a conference. I don't know if it's the same for the SEC. They have Georgia, they have Texas, who even if Coach Prime is more famous than Steve Sarkisian, Kirby Smart, I don't know if he outweighs their brands at Texas and Georgia. Like they are dominant college football brands where I think the average college football fan would kind of be like, yeah, when I think of college football, I think of those brands, not really Coach Prime. I could be totally off on that, but we'll also have to see how Billy Napier does. Florida's made a ton of moves in the portal, and I think even though they have a really difficult schedule, they may be able to carve out quite the interesting season. An HBCU return is the second one listed. I don't know if he really would have the desire to do that, especially I think he would have, if he wanted to stay at the HBCU level, I don't think you leave it and then return to it. I think as we learned while he was at Jackson State, there was a lot of financial issues, and there's a lot of financial issues at all those HBCU, or most of them, I won't say all of them, a lot of them where they have, I saw something about Florida A&M where this guy basically gave him a $32 million check, and they don't really like know where the funds is from or something along those lines. So does he want to return to the HBCU? I feel like he wants to sort of compete at the highest level of college football, even though he really enjoyed, I think, building up Jackson State. Mississippi State listed on here. They just hired a coach. So that would mean Jeff Lebby would have to go 0-12, punch someone in the head, and probably, I don't know, be drinking on the job or something crazy like that for Mississippi State to move on from Jeff Lebby right away. That'd be really interesting. And then the Dallas Cowboys was also thrown out, and I just don't see him going to the NFL. For one, he's already said he doesn't have interest in the NFL. Two, like, do the Dallas Cowboys fire a coach who has won a Super Bowl and take a risk on someone that big? Because I imagine they're going to be rebuilding pretty soon. I think the Dallas Cowboys are kind of due for a blow it up kind of season. And I don't know if Coach Prime wants to be a part of a rebuild in the NFL. So I think a lot of people are just really uber excited to see him leave Colorado. But I think unless there's like some better signs where it's like, yeah, I could see him leaving, I think I'm just going to pencil him in Boulder until I see some like concrete, like, okay, this job opening up changes things. You guys comment below what you think. When we come back, we're going to be talking about my rankings of the Big 12 and discuss why I think Colorado is getting a little disrespected. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. And let me tell you about FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Also, you got to look out for Kyrie against the Timberwolves. He was cooking, and I think he will continue to cook. Anthony Edwards, bounce back game coming in soon. I guess we'll find out, but you guys can go check out all the action over on FanDuel. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, share it with a friend, share it with your mom, your dog. I don't care. Just share it with someone so that way we can build this community up and we can continue to have some fun. We are talking about Big 12 power rankings. On3 released theirs, and I think Colorado is way too low. They have Colorado at 11 behind TCU and programs like UCF, Iowa State. Now, I think realistically the highest I would comfortably place Colorado is probably 7. So this is how they have it. Utah, which I agree with, Kansas State at 2, Oklahoma State at 3, Arizona 4, which I think is a solid choice right there. Kansas 5, with a healthy Jalen Daniels, Kansas could win the conference. West Virginia 6. West Virginia was slept on last year, and they had a sneaky good season. Iowa State 7. This is where I think where Colorado could kind of emerge up here. UCF 8. I think this is a different UCF program. I think they're going to be good, but I feel like if you wanted to, you could put Colorado at 8. 9, Texas Tech. That'd probably be where I think Colorado fits the best. TCU 10. Colorado beat them head-to-head. I think they're in a way better position than TCU is. Colorado 11, Baylor 12, Cincinnati 13, BYU 14, Arizona State, and then Houston. Why are people doubting Colorado? Well, this is what they kind of wrote about Colorado. So once again, the eyes of college football has been on Deion Sanders. They have 28 newcomers to the roster, and they kind of just talked about all the depth and stuff, but there's a lot of turnover, which means they think depth will be a problem. Excuse me. They think depth will be a problem. I don't think depth's an issue for Colorado. I think there's a reason that coach probably went out and added like 10 new linemen on both sides of the ball. Not 10, but you know what I mean. He added probably 7 to 8 Jordan Seaton, counting Jordan Seaton, 9, maybe 10 offense linemen. He added 6 defense linemen or so. They added depth. They added experience, and this team is a lot better than last year's. And last year's team, which one-score games aren't indicative of a good team, but it does show that you could be on the wrong side of a lot of one-score games one year, and you could be on the right side of one-score games the next year. And I think Colorado was on the wrong side of quite a few of them last year. So they have Shedeur Sanders returning in an offense with a better offensive line, with an offense that he likes better than last year. You have a much better secondary, and your trenches are not going to be outmatched like they were last year. So I think a lot of people are way underestimating this Colorado team. I'm going to do a record prediction pretty short or shortly here in the coming weeks. You guys will want to stay tuned for that. You guys can comment below what you think your record prediction will be. I think now that we kind of have a general idea of what the roster looks like, I feel comfortable putting in my first initial prediction. You guys comment below what you think Colorado will have this season 2024. Appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, all that. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow.